Hello, my name is Kathleen Lugerich, and I'm the Director of Programs and Operations for the Army Historical Foundation and your host for Army Artifacts, a program that demonstrates Army history is everywhere. Today's episode will be a little different because it won't focus on an artifact or museum or a person from the past, but on people who are here with us now, military veterans, and how we honor them today. The Honor Flight Network was established in 2005 with the mission to transport American veterans to Washington, D.C. to see the monuments and memorials built in their honor, and to celebrate the veterans for their service and sacrifice, as many of them never were when they returned home. Honor flights initially focused on World War II veterans, but has since expanded so much that the network transports 22,000 veterans annually. There are 124 honor flight hubs around the country, almost one in every state, but for those in an area not near a hub, there is a Lone Eagle Honor Flight program that ensures veterans, regardless of their geographic location, are able to participate in the experience. This episode will feature clips from two Honor Flight coordinators, Court B. Van Sickler from Honor Flight San Antonio, and Ed Bach from South Willamette Valley Honor Flight, who will explain what an honor flight is and why it's important. What is an honor flight?
The Honor Flight program is one that takes veterans from all over the nation, any veteran who qualifies with an honorable discharge from any service, from World War II, Korea, Vietnam, and moving on, Gulf Wars, etc., to Washington, D.C. on a cost-free trip for the veteran to visit the memorials and monuments dedicated to their service, to their country, and any other environment we can take them to that would be interesting historically or to them personally, if we can.
And where do you typically go in DC when you come?
Our journey takes us from all of the war memorials, World War II, Korea, Vietnam. It also takes us to Lincoln, Roosevelt, Martin Luther King memorials, Disabled American Veterans for Life, military service memorials, Navy, Air Force, Marine, up to Arlington for a changing the guard and wreath laying ceremony.
Why are honor flights so important?
Well, it's because we get to honor the veterans that have been before us. I'm a Vietnam vet, Air Force retiree, 22 years. But I've been doing this so long, you get to listen to the stories coming from the World War II vets, the Korean War vets, and my brothers and sisters from Vietnam era. And you just hear these stories and we need to share this. It's history. And so we get these veterans together, they get to talk to each other. We're honored to say many of these veterans out of their shells. And as you know, if you talk to the veterans more and more, many of them don't talk about their history, what happened. The World War II vets say, look, we took off one shirt and I put on another, and then when I got back from the war, I put back on the old shirt again, went back to work, whatever I was doing. Or I went to college and I became a whatever, And then there's the Vietnam vets. Well, we know most of the nation is now aware what happened to the majority of our Vietnam vets, and the way we were treated when we got back. Not everybody was involved. Yes, there was some bad times, but there are bad times in all conflicts. I don't care what it is. But getting these vets together and getting them to walk around, and one of the biggest thrills we all get, I know anybody who's involved with the Honor Flight program is going to say, while you're visiting the memorials, be it World War II, Korea, Vietnam, anything, and you've got these veterans that are walking around or being pushed in a wheelchair, and they're wearing a hat, you get family members that will come up to them and say, thank you for your service. Many of the Vietnam vets are not used to that. You look at the videos and they say, I never had a welcome home. No one ever, not even my family said welcome home. So thank you for doing this. Those are the things that make this, make it why we do it.
Do you have a favorite memory from an honor flight?
That one's easy. That's going with my dad. Each hub is allowed to operate on their own as far as format and itinerary, etc. On his particular flight, they did what we call mail call. Gather letters, cards, notes from family, friends, school kids, business acquaintances, church friends, civic groups. Gather those, fill a large manila envelope with anywhere from 20 to 200 cards and letters. In my dad's case, that's done on the plane. We returned to Arizona, and I had been raised by a loving father who I never saw shed a tear. But as he opened up these cards and letters, people expressing their thanks and appreciation and love for him, he got a little drippy. And when that happened, then I got that way, and I was in the middle seat. He was on the aisle. Seated next to me was an Army captain, active duty Army captain, who'd been a pilot, but was now a doctor. And he asked me what was going on. And when I told him, next time I looked back, he was getting a little noise just watching my dad go through this stack of letters. And so he obviously knew what it meant. My dad. Letters from home, letters of appreciation, letters of thanks. And so that made that whole trip just a something.
My favorite memory from the honor flight was from one of the very first that we ever had, and it's actually a twofold honor, if you'll allow. Is we were doing our what we call our meet and greet. That's where the veterans and their guardians and family members come in, and we all talk about the program. We tell them what's going to happen on the flight. We don't tell them everything that happens because, well, you got to have a couple of surprises. They're all, military folks, and they want to do those kind of things. The other thing, and so what happened was I was talking, giving a presentation, and all of a sudden one gentleman stands up in the back of the room and he yells up to some guy who's sitting at the front of the room, and he says, "Hey, you with the 700 on your hat, were you on?" And it was apparently a ship. They were in Okinawa Bay together, and apparently the gentleman who was on the 700 or something ship, it blew up in the harbor, and they thought everybody was lost on board. Well, apparently they weren't. And the guy that was talking said, "Yeah, our ship blew up because of yours, and we lost some guys too." And so the two of them started talking. So that, that's where that association came through. But the most memorable of the entire group early on is two veterans sitting on our bus. Now we've already gone through the meet and greet. We sat through the airport. They've met all the veterans, and all of a sudden one of them says, he looks at the other one and he says, "Where are you from?" And he told him where he was from, down in South Texas. And he says, "I am too." Well, I'll shorten the story. These two guys grew up together. They lost track of each other because one was 6 months older when World War II started. One went into one service earlier than the other. And then they finally met on our bus 65 years later. So, those are the kind of memories that I have. And there are lots of others that, a lot of people could tell you about. Many, many stories of veterans standing in a memorial. For instance, Iwo Jima, staring at a particular side of the memorial, World War II, talking about, "I lost a friend at Iwo Jima," for instance. And the other guy, "I did too." And he said, "What unit were you in?" They started talking. They were in the same unit, and it turns out they had not looked at each other's name tags. They were talking about each other. So they were best friends when they were in the service. They each thought the other one had perished. But there you go. Those are the stories that make this program what it is.
In addition to speaking with 2 honor flights, I was able to speak with 2 veterans who came with Honor Flight San Antonio to visit the National Museum of the United States Army. Although our visit was brief, they told me a little bit about their service and what this experience has meant to them. Can you give me a brief summary of your service?
I'm U.S. Army. I was commissioned through the ROTC program at St. Mary's University in San Antonio, and I served 3 years on active duty. I took an infantry officer's commission, was at Fort Benning, Georgia, for basic airborne and ranger school. And then I served in Colorado with the 5th Infantry as a platoon leader and a company commander. I went to Vietnamese language school from there, and then from there I went to Vietnam as an advisor to the Vietnamese Army in 3 years.
All that in 3 years?
Yes.
Oh my gosh. What did you do after the 3 years?
I worked for AT&T and Southwestern Bell for 28 years and retired in 2002. So,
What's a memorable moment from those 3 years where you seem to have done a lot?
I was privileged to be in, as I said, in Fort Carson, Colorado, and battalion commander had enough confidence that he made me a platoon leader for a couple of weeks. And we were so short on officers that I was promoted to, not promoted, but moved to company commander for a company as a second lieutenant. And in Vietnam, I served as an advisor to the Vietnamese Army, and spent a lot of time in the field. One of the things that happened is I received a radio call one day from an American chopper that was flying overhead because everything else around us was Vietnamese. And the American co-pilot called me, and they told me, we exchanged call signs, and they asked me to confirm, and I did. And the pilot said, we had a call from the Romeo Charlie, the Red Cross, and they said that mother and daughter are doing well in the land of the Big PX. So I knew my daughter had been born.
Oh, that's so sweet.
So that was.
And what has this honor flight experience meant to you?
We're very fortunate to be here. I'm looking forward to tomorrow to go see the Vietnam Wall again. I saw that in 2010 I was here. And I have 2 names that I know personally. So I'm going to go see them again tomorrow. But the tour has been excellent from the start, from this morning. And I enjoy the professionalism, courtesy, and discipline that the staff has shown us. And also the beginnings of some camaraderie that the other veterans and myself are having. So it's been a very, very pleasurable, very remarkable trip for me.
And what's been the best part for you so far?
Being here at the museum, I'm looking forward to it. Like I said, I was not aware we were coming here, but as I told you that I've contributed some money for this museum in the past.
I'm so glad you get to see it.
Yeah, so.
Can you give me a brief summary of your service? What branch, what you did?
I joined the Air Force and went to navigator training and bombardier training. Then I wound up going to Charleston Air Force Base, and I was a navigator flying stuff around the world in C-124s, C-130s, C-141s, and then my last tour in the Air Force, while I was flying business, was in EC-47s in Southeast Asia. And then I went into contracting and procurement because I got tired of flying the line. It's too dangerous.
How long did you fly?
About 7,000 hours of flying time worth.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
7,000 hours.
Yeah.
How many years did you serve?
23.
What's a memorable moment from your service, either inside a plane or out of a plane?
The one that first comes to mind is that we were flying the Ho Chi Minh Trail in February of 1973. And we were taking 3 aircraft, AAA, anti-aircraft fire on 3 quadrants, on the nose, and on the left and on the right. So we had to exit to the south and get out of there. 2 nights later, the same mission, Baron 5-2, was shot down and all hands were killed. So I missed about 2 days. And like there's a phrase in Spanish called pilón. So every day from then on is pilón. Claro?
Claro, pilón.
Yeah. Everybody has days like that too, because we all have, but when you see that close and realize that you missed it by 2 days like that, every day's sweeter. So,
What does pelo mean?
no, pilon means another, a little something extra. So I'm living on borrowed time.
Oh.
So it's great. That's been a long time ago, but I'm still on borrowed time. A lot of pilon.
What has this honor flight experience meant to you?
Well, the great part to me is meeting with the guardians as well as the other veterans, because we're talking about, we have a World War II veteran, one from Korea, and then the rest from Vietnam, but all services, except a couple of guys haven't showed up. There's no Marines or Coast Guard. But the thing is, we all wear the same uniform, different patches. I used to wear a flying suit, for instance. But the thing is, a guy with a Marine, for instance, a patch on his shoulder is wearing the same flying suit that I am. So they're brother service members.
There are many ways you can support the Honor Flight Network. You can learn about those opportunities at www.honorflight.org. Opportunities include supporting your local hub and supporting flights once they arrive in D.C. You can even look up flight itineraries to see where flights will be visiting during their tour of the area so you can thank them in person. There are many ways to thank a veteran or a military service member, but don't forget that you can do that right now where you live or wherever you travel. So I'd like to say thank you to all the veterans and military service members who may see this episode. Thank you for your service and sacrifice, and welcome home.